50 million years ago, India crashed into Asia. The impact was so violent that the ocean floor rose into the sky. That collision never stopped. It created a place called Nepal, a land still rising 1 centimeter every year. A country built on moving earth, and what survives here will change how you see the world. From above, this land looks like a dream carved from ice and stone. 8 of the 10 tallest peaks on Earth guard its borders. Glaciers older than civilization cut through valleys no road has ever reached. Ancient forests cling to slopes where gravity should have won long ago. And hidden within these mountains, mysteries wait in silence. Mysteries about survival, about belief, about what happens when nature tries to crush you and you refuse to disappear. But here is what most people never hear. Above 26,000 feet, the human body begins shutting down. They call it the death zone. Hundreds of climbers remain frozen on these slopes, never coming home. Yet every year, more people return. What pulls them toward the edge of death? And who are the ones that make these impossible journeys possible? This is not just a story about mountains. This is a journey into a land pressed between 2 giants. A place where earthquakes have leveled entire cities, and those cities rose again. Where caves carved into impossible cliffs guard secrets no one can explain. Where life thrives in places it was never designed to exist. And where one nation has stood unconquered for centuries, not by accident. Right now, the ice is melting faster than predicted. The government is still finding its footing. The next disaster is not a question of if. Yet 30 million people remain. What do they understand that the rest of the world has forgotten? In this journey, we go beyond the peaks, into valleys hidden from modern eyes, through cities that refuse to stay buried, and into the lives of people who redefine what human endurance truly means. This is Nepal, the most impossible country on Earth. And its story is just beginning. The story of Nepal begins with violence. Not human violence, planetary violence. 50 million years ago, the Indian subcontinent was just an island drifting through an ancient ocean. Then it crashed into Asia. The impact crumpled the ocean floor upward, layer upon layer rising toward the sky, and those layers became the highest mountains on Earth. Now soar above them. Watch how the Himalayas stretch endlessly across the horizon, peaks after peaks, white summits catching golden light, ridges so sharp they slice through the clouds like frozen blades. This is a wall of ice and stone that divides an entire continent. And here is what makes it even more incredible. That collision never stopped. Right now, the Indian plate is still grinding into Asia. Every year, these mountains rise 1 centimeter higher. The peaks are still growing. The earthquakes are still coming. Nepal sits directly on top of this slow-motion catastrophe, a country balanced on a fault line that could shift without warning. Glide over the valleys carved between these giants. See how rivers snake through gorges thousands of feet deep. Watch glaciers crawl down from the peaks, ancient ice catching blue light. These frozen rivers feed 3 of Asia's mightiest waterways: the Indus, the Ganges, and the Brahmaputra. Over 1 billion people depend on water born from these heights. Now descend toward Everest. The highest point on the planet rises through the frame. Behind it, a glacier the size of a city groans and cracks in the silence. Above, the summit disappears into a sky so dark it looks like outer space. The air here holds almost nothing. Your lungs would scream for oxygen before you even started climbing. This is not a place humans were designed to survive, yet somehow they do. Pull back and witness what pressure has created. Nepal does not exist despite the chaos. Nepal exists because of it. The same collision that built these mountains carved the valleys between them. It created microclimates, tropical jungles at the base, frozen deserts at the top. It created isolation so deep that villages a few miles apart speak completely different languages. Pressure creates destruction, but pressure also creates diversity. Fly along the ridgelines one more time. Watch how the light shifts across snow-covered faces. See the shadows stretch across valleys no road has ever reached. Every earthquake is a reminder that this land is still being shaped. Every avalanche is proof that these mountains answer to no one. Nepal is not finished being born. But the mountains do not just test the land. They test the people who dare to climb them. Above 26,000 feet, the human body begins to shut down. Yet every year, hundreds attempt to reach the summit anyway. Some return with triumph. Others never return at all. And high on these frozen slopes, in a place called Rainbow Valley, the mountain keeps its trophies. There is a line on the mountain where everything changes. Below it, the human body struggles, but survives. Above it, the body starts to die, slowly, inevitably, with every passing minute. This line sits at 26,000 feet. Climbers call it the death zone. And once you cross it, the clock starts ticking. Fly closer to these frozen heights. Watch how the snow whips across ridgelines in violent gusts. See how the sky deepens from blue to nearly black. Up here, the air holds only 1/3 of the oxygen your body needs. Your lungs burn, your heart races, your brain starts to fail. Judgment disappears, hallucinations begin. Fingers and toes freeze solid, and if you stop moving, even for a few minutes, the cold will freeze you in place, forever. There is no rescue above 26,000 feet. If you fall, you stay. If you die, you stay. The mountain keeps what it claims, and the numbers prove just how deadly this place truly is. Over 300 bodies remain on Everest right now, frozen in the exact positions where they died. Some have been there for decades, climbers who came seeking glory and never returned. One of them is known as Green Boots, named for the color of his footwear. He has become a landmark, a frozen human being that climbers step past on their way to the summit. The mountain is not just a challenge, it is a graveyard that keeps growing. Now glide toward the most haunting place of all. High on Everest's northeast ridge lies Rainbow Valley. The name sounds beautiful, but the colors come from something terrible. Red, yellow, blue, the bright jackets of dead climbers scattered across the snow. Each splash of color marks someone who pushed too hard, who stayed too long, who made one small mistake that became permanent. Every climber who passes through Rainbow Valley walks among the dead, knowing they could easily become one of them. The death zone reveals something uncomfortable about human ambition. The summit offers nothing practical, no resources, no shelter, no reward except the ability to say, "I stood there." And yet people risk everything to reach it, not because it makes sense, because something deep inside them needs to try. Descend now toward Thukla Pass. On the trail to base camp, stone cairns stand in silent rows. Each one marks a climber who never came home. Names, dates, nationalities, dreams that ended on the ice above. Every climber passes this memorial on their way up. A quiet reminder that the mountain has already claimed many. They see the stones, they read the names, and they climb anyway. But here is what most people never realize. The climbers do not conquer Everest alone. Behind every summit attempt stands an army of invisible workers. They carry loads that would break most backs. They fix ropes in darkness before dawn even arrives. They are paid to risk their lives so others can chase glory. They are the Sherpas, and without them, no one would ever reach the top. Every summit photograph tells a lie. It shows one person standing on top of the world. It never shows the Sherpas who made it possible. Soar above the climbing routes at dawn. Tiny figures move through frozen darkness, already working while clients sleep. Each one carries 60 to 80 pounds on their back, through terrain where most climbers struggle to carry themselves. They fix ropes through the deadly Khumbu icefall before sunrise. They make multiple trips through the death zone every season. And when disaster strikes, when avalanches bury camps, when climbers collapse, it is the Sherpas who carry out the dead. The glory goes to the summiteers. The weight stays with the Sherpas. Glide now toward a face the world should know. Kami Rita Sherpa has summited Everest 30 times, more than any human in history. For most climbers, this peak is a once-in-a-lifetime dream. For Sherpas, it is simply a job. They earn a fraction of what clients spend on expeditions. Until recently, no insurance, no death benefits, no recognition. Pull back and witness the morning ritual. Headlamps flicker through the icefall like fireflies in a frozen canyon. Behind them, yaks emerge from the shadows, massive beasts carrying supplies toward higher camps. They weigh as much as small trucks, yet they step with precision on ice that could shatter any moment. Without Sherpas and yaks, this mountain would be unconquerable. In Nepal, carrying is not just labor, it is a way of life. Sherpas carry climbers through the death zone. Women carry water up endless trails. Mules carry supplies to villages no road will ever reach. Survival here means shouldering weight that would break most people. But the Sherpas are not alone in this impossible existence. Scattered across these heights, hidden between the peaks, are villages. Places where families live. Children grow. Markets operate, all at altitudes where most humans cannot even breathe. How do people build lives where life should not exist? The answer waits in the high villages, where the impossible became ordinary. Most humans begin to suffer above 8,000 feet. Headaches, nausea, confusion, shortness of breath. The body screams that something is wrong. Yet in Nepal, children are born at 14,000 feet. They grow up playing in thin air. They walk to school on trails that would terrify experienced hikers. For them, the impossible is simply home. Soar now above Dingboche. This village sits at 14,469 feet, higher than any peak in the continental United States. Stone-walled fields hold rows of barley and potatoes. Women carry water in metal jugs along paths carved into cliff sides. Children play football on terraces so steep, a mist ball could roll for 1,000 feet. And when darkness falls, there are no streetlights. only butter lamps and stars. A sky so clear that the Milky Way feels close enough to touch. Now glide toward Namche Bazaar, the gateway to Everest. This town operates a weekly market at 11,286 feet. Vendors sell yak cheese, dried meat, and climbing equipment, an unlikely mix that captures Nepal's blend of ancient and modern. Trekkers pause here to acclimatize before pushing higher. Locals have traded here for centuries. The town cascades down the mountainside like an amphitheater carved from rock. Blue-painted houses stacked in layers, smoke rising from stone chimneys. Descend now toward the heart of Namche. A bronze statue of Tenzing Norgay stands at the center, the Sherpa who conquered Everest in 1953 alongside Edmund Hillary. His eyes gaze forever toward the peak he climbed. Behind him, Dablam rises in perfect pyramid form, one of the most beautiful mountains on Earth. And all around, life continues. Babies crying, dogs barking, monks praying, as if living at this altitude were nothing special. These villages challenge something we assume without thinking. That extreme environments are temporary. For the people here, the extreme is permanent. They do not visit this altitude. They live it. Generation after generation, building homes, raising families, burying their dead. In soil most humans could not survive for a week. Every village has its stupa, a white shrine at the center of life. Every trail has its mani stones, prayers carved into rock. Faith and altitude are inseparable here. You cannot survive one without the other. But not all of Nepal's impossible places are visible. Beyond the trekking routes, beyond the tourist maps, lie hidden valleys. Places the world forgot. One of them holds 10,000 caves carved into vertical cliffs. No one knows who built them or why. This is Upper Mustang, the Kingdom of Secrets. Cross to the rain shadow of the Himalayas, and Nepal transforms. The green valleys disappear, the snow peaks vanish behind walls of red and ochre rock, the air becomes dry, dusty, and ancient, a silence so deep it feels like stepping into another century. This is Upper Mustang, a hidden kingdom closed to outsiders until 1992, a place where time does not flow, it accumulates. Fly now above this forgotten landscape. Mustang is not beautiful in the way postcards promise. It is beautiful in the way questions are beautiful, unanswered, haunting, impossible to forget. Red cliffs rise from barren valleys in formations that seem inhuman. Wind has carved sandstone into towers, arches, and caves, shapes that should not stand, yet do. The landscape feels alive, as if it is watching you, weighing you, deciding whether to reveal its secrets. Now descend toward the cliffs and witness something unexplainable. Over 10,000 caves are carved into vertical rock faces. Some rise 150 feet above the ground, with no visible path. Inside, archaeologists have found 2,000-year-old human remains. Ancient manuscripts, religious paintings preserved by bone-dry air. Who carved these caves? How did they reach them? Why did they leave? No one knows. The cliffs hold their secrets like closed fists. Pull back now and take in the full view. A red desert, ringed by snow peaks. A landscape so alien it could be Mars. Thousands of dark holes dot the cliff faces, stacked in vertical rows, like a city built for ghosts. Wind howls through the canyons, carrying dust that has blown here for millennia. And in the distance, the walled city of Manthang rises from the plain. The ancient capital, its whitewashed walls glowing against the red earth. Mustang teaches a different lesson than the climbing routes. Here the question is not, can I conquer this? The question is, what happened here? And why will no one tell me? The land is older than human memory. It holds traces of lives we cannot reconstruct, and it refuses to explain itself. Chortens dot the landscape like white sentinels. Sacred Buddhist monuments marking paths pilgrims have walked for centuries. They stand at the boundary between the known and the unknown. Reminders that in Mustang, the spiritual and the mysterious are the same. But Mustang is not the only place where the physical meets something greater. Across Nepal, monasteries cling to impossible cliffs, built not to conquer the mountains but to surrender to them. In these places, monks do not fight the impossible, they sit with it, and in that stillness, they find something climbers never reach. In the West, mountains are problems to be solved, obstacles to be overcome, summits to be conquered. In Nepal, mountains are teachers, not because they offer lessons, but because they force you to stop. The monks who built monasteries on these peaks understood something climbers miss. The mountain has nothing to give you. The question is, what are you willing to let go? Soar now toward Tengboche Monastery. It sits on a ridge at 12,687 feet, surrounded by peaks that dwarf human imagination. Everest looms behind it like a silent god. Inside, monks gather before dawn. They chant prayers repeated for centuries. The sound rises and falls, deep, rhythmic, ancient, mixing with the wind that never stops blowing. There is no conquest here, only presence, the discipline of sitting still while the world roars around you. And this stillness has roots deeper than any mountain. Buddhism arrived in Nepal over 2,500 years ago. It merged with older traditions already rooted in these heights. Today, Buddhist monasteries and Hindu temples share the same peaks, the same valleys, the same reverence. Some deities are worshipped by both religions, under different names with different rituals, but the same understanding. In a place this overwhelming on division is a luxury no one can afford. Glide closer as dawn breaks over the monastery. Butter lamps flicker in frosted windows. Prayer wheels spin, copper cylinders containing thousands of mantras. Each rotation sends blessings into the universe. Monks in maroon robes walk slowly through courtyards, their breath visible in the cold air. And behind them, the mountains stand utterly indifferent, neither approving nor disapproving, simply there. The monastery clings to the cliff for a reason, not convenience, but surrender. You cannot look at Everest from Tengboche and believe you are in control. You cannot hear the wind and pretend the world revolves around you. The architecture is designed to humble, and in that humility, something opens. The monks do not climb, they sit. They do not seek achievement, they seek emptiness. And in that emptiness, they find what summiteers never reach. Not a peak, but a letting go. But surrender is not always chosen. Sometimes it is forced. Below the monasteries are in the valley that holds Nepal's heart. The ground never stops shaking. Cities have been destroyed over and over and rebuilt every time. Temples have fallen and risen like stone phoenixes. The people here have learned something brutal. Permanence is a lie. The only truth is rebuilding. The Kathmandu Valley is a bowl, surrounded by mountains, filled with ancient cities, and sitting directly on top of a tectonic time bomb. The same collision that built the Himalayas created the fault lines beneath this valley. Every few decades, the pressure releases, the ground shakes, buildings fall, people die, and then the rebuilding begins. It has been this way for over 1,000 years. Fly now above the scars of 2015. The earthquake measured 7.8 magnitude. It killed nearly 9,000 people. It destroyed temples that had stood for 500 years. The iconic Dharahara tower crumbled to rubble in seconds. Yet within months, hammers were swinging again, stone by stone, and the temples rose. The Dharahara was rebuilt, taller than before, not because Nepalists are optimistic, because they have no other option. Destruction is not the end here, it is simply part of the cycle. Descend now into Durbar Square. Some of the most intricate architecture in Asia fills this space. Palaces and temples carved with details so fine they seem impossible. The Bhairav, a massive stone mask of Shiva's destroyer, watches over the square. Legend says oaths sworn before it are unbreakable. Lying to Bhairav brings death. This is not myth stored safely in museums. This is living belief shaping behavior, present in daily life. Glide now toward the sacred Bagmati River. At Pashupatinath Temple, cremation fires burn day and night. Families carry their dead to stone platforms called ghats. Priests chant, wood is stacked, flames rise, the body transforms to ash. The ash enters the river. The river carries it toward liberation. Death in Kathmandu is not hidden behind hospital walls. It happens in public, witnessed, honored, woven into life. The valley holds a contradiction. It is fragile, shattered repeatedly by earthquakes. It is resilient, rebuilt every time, sometimes better. Motorcycles weave between 15th century temples. Vendors sell prayer flags from corners their ancestors used. Time does not move forward here. It layers, past and present stacked like temple stones. Fire transforms everything in this valley. Cremation flames, butter lamps, incense smoke. Fire is not destruction, it is release. The valley burns and rebuilds, dies and rebirths. It has learned what few places ever learn. The only permanence is the cycle itself. But the valley is not the only place where time moves differently. Nepal follows a calendar 57 years ahead of the world. It rebuilds towers that fell. It celebrates festivals older than most nations. And it holds a relationship with time the modern world has forgotten. When the world celebrated the year 2000, Nepal was already in 2057. The nation follows the Bikram Sambat calendar. a system that began when a legendary king freed his people from debt. This is not a quirk, it is a statement. Nepal exists in its own time. Soar above the Kathmandu skyline. The Dharahara Tower stood for 200 years, a white lighthouse above the rooftops. The 2015 earthquake brought it down in seconds. Dozens buried inside. A national symbol reduced to rubble. Yet by 2021, a new tower rose in its place, taller than before, built on the bones of the old, not a monument to destruction, a monument to continuation. Glide now toward Bhaktapur. This medieval city feels frozen in the 15th century. The Nyatapola temple dominates the square, 5 stories of perfect geometry. It has survived every earthquake the earth could deliver. Stone guardians line its steps, each level more powerful than the last. This is not just architecture, it is philosophy in stone. Rise towards Swayambhunath, the monkey temple. Buddha's eyes gaze from the golden spire in all 4 directions. Pilgrims circle the stupa, spinning prayer wheels with each step. Monkeys leap between ancient stones, stealing offerings without fear, and the entire Kathmandu valley spreads below. 3 cities, millions of lives, centuries of survival. Nepal sees time as a wheel, not a line. Buildings fall and rise, souls die and are reborn. Prayer wheels spin endlessly, never stopping, never arriving. A circle that keeps turning. But Nepal is not only vertical. Below the mountains, the land flattens. Jungles and plains stretch toward the horizon. Here, survival is not about altitude. It is about coexistence with prehistoric giants, with striped predators, with creatures from the age of dinosaurs. The Himalayas do not last forever. At Nepal's southern border, they surrender, giving way to flat, steaming plains called the Terai. The air here is thick, humid, alive with sounds the mountains never knew. And in these grasslands and jungles, creatures from another era still survive. Descend now into Chitwan National Park. This is a place of recovery. Decades ago, the one-horned rhinoceros had been hunted to near extinction. Fewer than 100 remained. Today, over 700 lumber through the tall grass like armored tanks. The same story repeats with Bengal tigers. Once shot for sport, now protected. Their striped shadows move through the forest with deadly grace. This is not a zoo. This is a second chance for species that nearly vanished forever. Glide above the Rapti River at sunrise. Mist rises from the water. Rhinos emerge from the tall grass, armor-plated skin glistening with dew. Peacocks unfurl impossible feathers in the golden light. Elephants move in slow procession, carrying rangers who patrol for poachers. And somewhere in the forest, a tiger waits. Invisible, patient, perfect. Chitwan holds one of the highest densities of tigers on Earth. In its rivers swim gharial crocodiles, ancient reptiles unchanged since the Mesozoic. their needle-thin snouts perfectly designed for catching fish. Above, vultures circle, completing the cycle of death and renewal. But conservation here is not a fairy tale. Villages surrounding the park live in constant tension. Rhinos raid crops. Elephants destroy fences. People die defending their fields from animals powerful enough to crush them without noticing. Survival here means sharing space with creatures that could kill you. This is real coexistence, messy, dangerous, and absolutely necessary. The jungle does not negotiate. It asks one question: can you adapt? Those who answer yes might survive. Those who don't, disappear. But the Terai holds one more secret. Over 2,500 years ago, in a small grove of trees, a prince was born. He would become the Buddha. His birthplace is not a monument to conquest. It is a landscape of compassion, where the most powerful influence in history came from someone who gave up all his power. Nepal has never been conquered, not by the Mughals, not by the British, not by anyone. But the most powerful force from this land was not an army, it was an idea that spread across half the world without raising a single sword. That idea was born in a grove of trees where a prince named Siddhartha Gautama became the Buddha. Descend now into Lumbini. This is not a single temple. It is a sacred landscape transformed by 2,500 years of pilgrimage. At its heart stands the Maya Devi Temple, the exact spot where Queen Maya Devi gave birth. Beneath the floor, archaeologists uncovered ruins from the 6th century BCE, layer upon layer of devotion, each generation building on the last. Beside the temple stands Emperor Ashoka's pillar, a sandstone column placed here 2,200 years ago. Its inscription still legible: "Here Buddha was born." The World Peace Stupa rises nearby, white dome and golden spire visible for miles, and the eternal peace flame burns day and night, tended by monks across seasons, years, generations. Soar now above the surrounding park, a pilgrimage through Buddhist civilization itself. Myanmar's Golden Temple glitters in Southeast Asian style. Thailand's complex offers geometric precision. Japan's meditation halls quiet the mind with empty space. Cambodia's architecture recalls vanished empires, each nation, each tradition united by one shared teacher. Lumbini represents something radical, power without conquest. Buddha did not build an empire, he did not raise armies. He simply taught, and his teachings spread across oceans and centuries without a single war. The Buddha sits in eternal meditation, serene, still, unmoved by chaos, not fighting, not fleeing, just present. Nepal's deepest teaching, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do, is stop. We have climbed into the death zone. We have descended into the jungles. We have walked through shaking cities and secret caves. We have stood where philosophy was born. But Nepal's story has no final chapter, because Nepal never stops. It survives, it adapts, it endures. And the final truth is not a conclusion, it is a continuation. Nepal should not exist. The geology says no. The altitude says no. The earthquakes say no. And yet, here it is. Not because the land is gentle, but because the people are stubborn. We came looking for wonders. We found them, but not where we expected. The wonder is not the height of the mountains. It is the villages clinging to their sides. The wonder is not the age of the temples. It is the hands that rebuild them every time they fall. Nepal does not offer answers. It offers questions. And the answer is not philosophy, it is action. The daily, stubborn, impossible act of showing up again. Remember where we began? India crashed into Asia. The ocean floor rose into the sky. A nation was born that should not exist, but does. Survival is not victory, it is negotiation. And in the most impossible places, that negotiation never ends. From the death zone of Everest to the jungles of Chitwan, from sky caves to sacred groves, we traveled through a country that breaks every rule and survives anyway. This is Nepal, not a destination, an education in endurance. If this moved you, subscribe to explore more impossible places. Like this video, share it with someone who needs a reminder that survival is possible. What struck you most? The frozen bodies? The unexplained caves? The rebuilt cities? Tell us in the comments. Right now, a prayer wheel spins, a yak climbs, a child breathes thin air. In Nepal, the impossible is just Tuesday.